The morning sun cast long shadows across the military training ground as General Marcus Thompson made his routine inspection walk. He had been doing this same walk for over 20 years, checking on recruits, observing training exercises, and maintaining the discipline that made his base one of the most respected in the country. The gravel crunched under his polished boots as he moved with the confident stride of a man who had earned his stars through decades of service. Thompson had seen it all during his military career. He had commanded troops in 3 different conflicts, survived an ambush in Afghanistan that claimed half his unit, and worked his way up from a young lieutenant to a 4-star general through sheer determination and tactical brilliance. His reputation preceded him wherever he went, and younger officers often felt their hearts race when they spotted his familiar figure approaching. On this particular morning, the general noticed something different about the training schedule. Instead of the usual group exercises, individual marksmanship trials were taking place at the long-range shooting facility. The facility was his pride and joy, featuring state-of-the-art equipment and targets positioned at various distances to test even the most skilled snipers. The longest range extended to 3,200 meters, a distance that challenged even veteran marksmen who had spent years perfecting their craft. As Thompson approached the shooting area, he could hear the sharp crack of rifle fire echoing across the valley. Each shot was followed by a moment of silence before the spotter would call out the result through a radio. The general had always been fascinated by precision shooting, having been a decent marksman himself during his younger days. He understood the incredible skill, patience, and mental discipline required to make accurate shots at extreme distances. The training officer, Colonel Martinez, spotted the general approaching and quickly walked over to brief him on the day's activities. Martinez explained that they were conducting advanced sniper qualification tests, with several soldiers attempting to earn their expert marksmanship badges. The tests were particularly challenging because weather conditions weren't ideal, with shifting winds that could throw off even the most carefully calculated shots. Thompson nodded approvingly as he listened to the briefing. He believed in pushing his soldiers to excel, knowing that superior marksmanship could mean the difference between life and death in real combat situations. The general had always maintained that every soldier under his command should strive to be the best version of themselves, regardless of their assigned role or background. As they talked, another rifle shot rang out across the range. This one sounded different somehow, more precise and confident than the others that had come before. The radio crackled to life as the spotter confirmed what sounded like an exceptional shot. Thompson raised an eyebrow, his interest piqued by the enthusiasm in the spotter's voice. Martinez gestured toward the furthest shooting position, where a lone figure was positioned behind a high-powered rifle. From this distance, Thompson could only make out that the shooter appeared smaller than the others who had been attempting the long-range shots throughout the morning. The general assumed it was probably one of his younger soldiers, perhaps someone trying to prove themselves worthy of advanced sniper training. The wind had been playing tricks on shooters all morning, causing even experienced marksmen to miss targets that should have been routine hits. The atmospheric conditions at 3,200 meters were particularly challenging, requiring shooters to account for bullet drop, wind drift, temperature variations, and even the rotation of the earth itself. It was the kind of shot that separated true experts from merely competent shooters. Thompson decided to move closer to get a better view of the proceedings. He had time in his schedule, and watching skilled marksmanship always impressed him. There was something almost artistic about watching an expert sniper work, calculating all the variables and then executing a perfect shot with clinical precision. As the general walked toward the shooting position, he reflected on how much military training had evolved during his career. When he was a young soldier, long-range shooting was more about instinct and experience than the precise science it had become today. Modern snipers used advanced ballistic computers, weather monitoring equipment, and sophisticated optics that his generation could never have imagined. Yet despite all the technological advances, the fundamental skills remained the same. A sniper still needed steady nerves, exceptional eyesight, perfect breath control, and the mental toughness to remain calm under pressure. These were qualities that couldn't be taught through technology alone. They had to be developed through countless hours of practice and an almost obsessive attention to detail. The figure at the shooting position was making final adjustments to the rifle scope, taking time to check wind conditions and verify the target distance. Thompson appreciated this methodical approach, recognizing the hallmarks of someone who understood that patience was often more important than raw shooting ability. Rushing a shot at this distance was almost guaranteed to result in a miss. Another shot echoed across the range, and this time the radio response was immediate and excited. The spotter's voice carried clearly across the distance, confirming another successful hit at the maximum range. Thompson found himself genuinely curious about this shooter's identity and background. Making consecutive hits at 3,200 meters was remarkable under any circumstances, but doing so in these challenging wind conditions was truly exceptional. The general quickened his pace slightly, eager to observe this impressive display of marksmanship firsthand. He had a feeling that he was about to witness something special, though he had no idea just how remarkable this encounter would prove to be. As he walked, Thompson began mentally preparing the commendation he would likely write for this skilled shooter, already impressed by what he had observed from a distance. As General Thompson drew closer to the shooting position, he began to notice details that surprised him. The rifle being used was a standard military-issue weapon, not one of the specialized sniper rifles typically employed for extreme long-range shots. This made the accurate shooting even more impressive, as the standard rifle required significantly more skill to achieve precision at such distances. The shooter was lying prone in perfect position, demonstrating textbook form that would have made any drill instructor proud. Every aspect of the shooting stance was flawless, from the placement of the support hand to the angle of the legs. Thompson could see that this soldier had received excellent training and had clearly spent considerable time perfecting their technique. What struck the general as unusual was the shooter's size. Even from behind, it was evident that this person was smaller and more slightly built than the typical soldiers who usually excelled at long-range marksmanship. Most of his best snipers were larger men with the physical strength to handle heavy rifles steady for extended periods. This shooter seemed to contradict that conventional wisdom. Colonel Martinez caught up with the general and began explaining the morning's results. Several experienced marksmen had attempted the 3,200-meter shot earlier, and most had struggled to hit the target even once. The challenging wind conditions had frustrated shooters who normally performed well at shorter distances. The current shooter, however, had already achieved 3 consecutive hits, a feat that was almost unprecedented under these conditions. Thompson listened to Martinez's briefing while keeping his eyes fixed on the shooter. The soldier was taking considerable time between shots, carefully observing wind patterns and making minute adjustments to the rifle scope. This patience was the mark of a true professional, someone who understood that precision shooting was as much about mental discipline as physical skill. The radio crackled with updates from the spotter positioned near the target. Each report confirmed that the shots were not just hitting the target, but were grouped remarkably close together. At 3,200 meters, even a slight variation in shooting technique could cause shots to miss by several meters. The fact that this shooter was achieving such consistent accuracy was genuinely remarkable. As Thompson continued watching, he noticed something else that impressed him. The shooter's breathing pattern was perfectly controlled, with each shot timed to coincide with the natural respiratory pause. This level of breath control took years to develop and was one of the most difficult aspects of precision shooting to master. Many otherwise skilled marksmen never achieved this level of respiratory discipline. The general found himself genuinely curious about this soldier's background and training. Such exceptional shooting ability didn't develop overnight, and he wondered where this person had learned such advanced techniques. Thompson prided himself on knowing the capabilities of his personnel, and he was surprised that such a talented marksman had escaped his notice until now. Another shot rang out, followed by an even more enthusiastic response from the spotter. This hit was apparently even more precise than the previous ones, landing almost exactly in the center of the target. Martinez shook his head in amazement, commenting that he had rarely seen such consistent accuracy at extreme range, even from soldiers with years of specialized sniper training. The shooter began preparing for what appeared to be a final shot. The wind had picked up slightly, making the conditions even more challenging than before. Thompson watched as the soldier made careful calculations, adjusting the scope and checking the wind flags positioned at intervals along the range. Every movement was deliberate and purposeful, showing a deep understanding of external ballistics. Thompson noticed that a small crowd of other soldiers had gathered at a respectful distance to observe this impressive shooting display. Word had apparently spread about the exceptional marksmanship being demonstrated, and other personnel had come to witness what was becoming a legendary performance. Even the most experienced soldiers on the base were clearly impressed by what they were seeing. The final shot preparation took longer than the others, as the shooter waited for optimal wind conditions. Thompson appreciated this patience, knowing that many less experienced marksmen would have rushed the shot and likely missed as a result. True experts understood that sometimes the best decision was to wait, even if it meant taking more time than scheduled. When the shot finally came, it seemed to hang in the air longer than the others, though Thompson knew this was probably just his imagination. The sound echoed across the valley with the same sharp crack as before, but somehow this shot felt different, more significant. The radio remained silent for what seemed like an unusually long time. Then the spotter's voice came through with barely contained excitement, confirming not just another hit, but what appeared to be a perfect bullseye at maximum range. The small crowd of observing soldiers broke into spontaneous applause, recognition of a truly exceptional achievement they had just witnessed. Thompson felt a surge of pride in his command. Having soldiers capable of such remarkable performance reflected well on the training programs and standards maintained at his facility. He made a mental note to ensure that this shooter received appropriate recognition for such an outstanding display of marksmanship skills. As the shooting session concluded, the soldier began to pack up equipment with the same methodical care that had characterized the entire performance. Thompson decided it was time to introduce himself and personally commend this exceptional marksman. He began walking directly toward the shooting position, preparing the words of congratulation he would offer. The general straightened his uniform and checked his appearance, wanting to present himself properly when meeting such a skilled soldier. Thompson believed in personally recognizing outstanding performance, and this shooting exhibition certainly qualified as exceptional by any standard. He looked forward to learning more about this talented individual's background and future career plans. As General Thompson approached the shooting position, the soldier was carefully cleaning the rifle with practiced efficiency. The methodical way the weapon was being maintained showed the same attention to detail that had been evident in the shooting performance. Thompson appreciated soldiers who understood that proper equipment care was just as important as marksmanship skills. The general was about 10 feet away when the soldier stood up and began turning around. Thompson prepared his congratulatory remarks, planning to personally commend what he assumed would be one of his male soldiers for such an exceptional shooting display. He had already decided to recommend this marksman for advanced sniper training and possibly specialist assignments. What happened next stopped Thompson in his tracks completely. As the soldier turned to face him, the general realized he had been watching a woman. She was young, probably in her early 20s, with her hair pulled back in a regulation military bun. Her uniform was perfectly pressed and properly worn, and she carried herself with the confident bearing of someone who knew exactly what they were capable of achieving. Thompson felt his assumptions crumble in an instant. Throughout his long military career, he had worked with many capable female soldiers in various roles, but he had never encountered a woman who demonstrated such exceptional long-range shooting ability. His experience had led him to believe that the physical demands of precision shooting at extreme distances favored male soldiers, but the performance he had just witnessed completely contradicted that assumption. The female soldier snapped to attention and delivered a crisp salute as she recognized the approaching general. Thompson returned the salute automatically, still processing what he was seeing. Her bearing was perfect, showing the discipline and respect that he expected from all his personnel. But his mind was struggling to reconcile her appearance with the remarkable shooting performance he had just observed. Thompson's eyes were drawn to the various badges and ribbons on her uniform. Most were standard issue awards that many soldiers earned during their service, but one particular badge caught his attention and held it. Prominently displayed on her chest was a sniper qualification badge, and it wasn't just any sniper badge. The distinctive markings indicated qualification for extreme long-range shooting, including confirmed kills at distances exceeding 3,000 meters. The general felt a chill run down his spine as he stared at the badge. He knew exactly what it represented: because he had signed the paperwork authorizing very few of these particular awards during his command. This badge was only awarded to snipers who had successfully engaged enemy targets at distances that most marksmen considered nearly impossible. The requirements were so stringent that fewer than a dozen soldiers in the entire army possessed this qualification. Thompson's mind raced as he tried to process the implications of what he was seeing. The shooting demonstration he had just witnessed wasn't simply impressive training. It was a display of combat-proven skills. This young woman wasn't just talented. She was a verified expert with real battlefield experience at the highest level of military marksmanship. The general realized he needed to look more carefully at her complete service record. His eyes moved to examine her other decorations, and he began to notice awards that he had initially overlooked. There was a Bronze Star Medal, indicating valor in combat operations. A Purple Heart showed that she had been wounded in action. Multiple deployment ribbons revealed extensive overseas service in active combat zones. Thompson felt increasingly uncomfortable as he recognized that his initial assumptions had been completely wrong. This wasn't a promising young soldier who showed potential for advanced training. This was a proven combat veteran with accomplishments that exceeded those of most soldiers under his command, regardless of gender. Her service record, displayed in the form of ribbons and badges, told a story of exceptional courage and skill. The sniper badge continued to draw his attention. Thompson remembered the specific mission reports associated with these awards because they were so rare and significant. Each badge represented not just marksmanship ability, but successful completion of extremely dangerous combat missions where exceptional shooting skills had made the difference between mission success and failure, often between life and death for fellow soldiers. As the general studied her awards more closely, he noticed a small detail that made him pause even longer. Attached to the sniper badge was a small numerical indicator that he had initially missed. The number 3200 was inscribed on a tiny metal plate, indicating the longest confirmed kill distance. Thompson's breath caught in his throat as he realized what this meant. The shooting performance he had just witnessed wasn't this soldier demonstrating her maximum capability. It was her recreating a shot she had already made successfully in combat conditions. The 200-meter target wasn't a challenge for her. It was simply a repeat of something she had already accomplished when lives depended on her accuracy. The implications of this realization were staggering. Thompson found himself reconsidering everything he thought he knew about the capabilities of his personnel. This young woman had achieved something that most of his most experienced male snipers had never accomplished, and she had done it under the stress and danger of actual combat conditions. The casual way she had approached today's shooting exercise suddenly made perfect sense. The general realized that he was standing in the presence of one of the most accomplished marksmen in the entire military, and he had been completely unaware of her presence on his base. This was simultaneously embarrassing and enlightening, forcing him to confront his own preconceptions about military capabilities and gender roles in combat positions. As Thompson continued to process this information, he became aware that the soldier was waiting patiently for him to speak. Her expression showed neither arrogance nor false modesty, just the quiet confidence of someone who knew her worth and didn't need external validation. The general realized he needed to find appropriate words to address both her exceptional performance and his own surprise at discovering her capabilities. General Thompson struggled to find his voice as he continued staring at the sniper badge. The small 3200 inscription seemed to grow larger in his vision, representing not just a number but a story of incredible skill and courage that he was only beginning to understand. He cleared his throat and finally managed to speak, though his usual commanding presence felt somehow diminished by the magnitude of what he was discovering. "Soldier," Thompson began, his voice carrying a mixture of respect and curiosity that surprised even himself. "I've just witnessed some remarkable shooting. Could you tell me your name and unit assignment?" He found himself speaking more formally than usual, as if addressing a peer rather than a subordinate, though he wasn't entirely sure why his tone had shifted. "Staff Sergeant Sarah Chen, sir," she replied with crisp military bearing, "currently assigned to the 3rd Battalion Special Operations Support Unit." Her voice was steady and confident, showing no sign of nervousness despite being directly addressed by a 4-star general. Thompson noticed that her response was precise and professional, exactly what he would expect from an experienced soldier. Thompson recognized the unit designation and realized why he hadn't been familiar with her record. The Special Operations Support personnel often operated under different command structures and security classifications that limited his direct oversight. These soldiers frequently worked on missions that required the highest levels of discretion and specialized skills, which would explain why such an accomplished marksman had remained outside his immediate awareness. "That badge," Thompson said, gesturing toward the sniper qualification on her chest. "The 200-meter designation. Can you tell me about the circumstances surrounding that qualification?" He tried to keep his tone professional, but his genuine curiosity was evident. The general found himself genuinely interested in learning about combat operations from someone who had clearly seen action at the highest levels. Chen's expression remained neutral as she considered her response. "The qualification was earned during Operation Desert Shield, sir. Taliban forces had positioned a high-value target in what they believed was a safe location, beyond effective rifle range. Intelligence indicated that the target would only be exposed for a brief window, making artillery or airstrikes impractical due to collateral damage concerns." Thompson listened intently as she continued her account. Her description was factual and precise without any embellishment or dramatic elements. She spoke about the mission with the same methodical approach she had demonstrated during the morning's shooting exercise, treating it as simply another professional assignment that had required her particular skills. "Weather conditions were challenging," Chen continued. "High-altitude location with variable wind patterns and temperature fluctuations that affected ballistic calculations. The shot had to be taken from a concealed position that didn't allow for optimal shooting stance, and there was no opportunity for ranging shots or adjustments." The general found himself impressed not just by the technical achievement, but by the way Chen described it. She showed no boastfulness or self-aggrandizement, simply reporting the facts as if discussing routine training exercises. This kind of professional modesty was exactly what Thompson valued most in his soldiers, particularly those who had achieved exceptional things under difficult circumstances. "The target was confirmed eliminated with a single shot," Chen concluded. "Mission objectives were achieved without compromise to team position or civilian casualties." She paused briefly before adding, "The 3,200-meter distance was confirmed through GPS measurement and verified by multiple observers before the qualification was approved." Thompson nodded slowly, beginning to understand the full significance of what he was hearing. This wasn't just impressive marksmanship. This was a textbook example of special operations precision that had likely saved lives and accomplished strategic objectives that conventional approaches couldn't have achieved. The calm, matter-of-fact way she described it made the achievement even more remarkable. "How long have you been assigned to my base?" Thompson asked, realizing that such an accomplished soldier had been operating under his command without his knowledge. He felt somewhat embarrassed that he hadn't been aware of having such exceptional personnel in his units, particularly someone with combat experience that exceeded most of his senior staff. 6 months, sir," Chen replied. "I was transferred here for advanced training coordination and to assist with marksmanship instruction for personnel preparing for deployment." This explanation helped Thompson understand why she had been at the shooting range that morning, and why her performance had been so exceptional compared to the other soldiers attempting the same shots. The general began to see a larger picture forming. Chen wasn't just a skilled individual soldier. She was someone whose expertise was being used to improve the capabilities of others. The fact that she could casually demonstrate a 3,200-meter shot as part of her instructional duties spoke volumes about her competence and the military's recognition of her abilities. Thompson found himself reconsidering his understanding of modern military operations. The integration of highly skilled specialists like Chen into training and support roles represented an evolution in military thinking that maximized the value of exceptional individual capabilities while developing those same skills in other personnel. "Your shooting this morning," Thompson said, "was that part of your regular instructional duties?" He was beginning to understand that what he had witnessed might have been a training demonstration rather than simply a qualification exercise, which would explain why she had approached it with such confident ease. "Yes, sir," Chen confirmed. "I was demonstrating proper technique for long-range shooting under adverse conditions. Several junior personnel will be attempting similar qualifications next week, and they needed to see how environmental factors should be addressed." Her explanation made perfect sense and showed that her exceptional skills were being used strategically. To improve overall unit capabilities, Thompson realized that his chance encounter with Chen had revealed not just an individual story of remarkable achievement, but also insights into how the modern military was evolving to make better use of specialized talents. The fact that someone with her combat experience was dedicating time to training others showed a commitment to sharing knowledge and improving collective capabilities that impressed him greatly. General Thompson found himself wanting to learn more about Chen's background and experiences, but he also recognized that someone with her security clearance and operational history might not be able to discuss many details of her service. He decided to approach the conversation from a different angle, focusing on her role as an instructor and her observations about current training programs. Staff Sergeant Chen, Thompson began, in your experience working with personnel preparing for deployment, what are the most common deficiencies you observe in marksmanship training? He was genuinely interested in her professional assessment, recognizing that someone with her combat experience would have valuable insights into training effectiveness. Chen considered the question carefully before responding. Sir, most soldiers have adequate technical skills for standard engagement distances, but they struggle with environmental compensation and stress management. Combat shooting conditions rarely match training range scenarios, and many personnel aren't prepared for the psychological pressure of taking precise shots when lives are at stake. Thompson nodded, appreciating her direct and thoughtful analysis. Her assessment aligned with some of his own observations about training limitations, but hearing it from someone with proven combat experience gave it additional weight. He could see why the military had assigned her to training duties. Her perspective was invaluable for improving preparation programs. The biggest challenge, Chen continued, is helping soldiers understand that exceptional marksmanship isn't just about individual skill. It's about team coordination, intelligence gathering, and strategic thinking. A successful long-range engagement requires much more than just accurate shooting. Her comment revealed a sophisticated understanding of military operations that impressed Thompson. The general found himself thinking about broader implications of their conversation. Having soldiers like Chen in training roles could significantly improve the combat readiness of deploying units, but he wondered if the military was making full use of such experienced personnel. Someone with her capabilities might be more valuable in active operations than in training assignments. Do you miss operational assignments? Thompson asked, curious about her career preferences and future goals. He suspected that someone with her background and achievements might find training duties less challenging than the combat missions she had clearly excelled at during her deployment. History. Chen's expression remained professional, but Thompson detected a slight change in her demeanor that suggested the question had touched on something important to her. I believe my current assignment serves an important purpose, sir, she replied diplomatically. Training the next generation of soldiers is meaningful work, and sharing operational experience helps improve overall mission success rates. Thompson recognized that her answer was carefully worded to avoid any criticism of her current assignment while also not directly addressing his question about personal preferences. Her diplomatic response suggested intelligence and awareness of military politics that complemented her obvious technical skills, making her seem even more impressive as an overall soldier. The general decided to be more direct in his inquiry. Chen, I'm going to speak candidly with you. Your demonstrated capability suggests that you could excel in numerous specialized roles within the military. Are you satisfied with your current career trajectory, or are there other assignments you'd like to pursue? He hoped his direct approach would encourage a more honest response. For the first time during their conversation, Chen seemed to relax slightly from her formal military bearing. Sir, I appreciate the question, she said. I've been considering options for advanced training that would allow me to contribute to operational planning and strategic development. My field experience has given me insights that might be valuable in higher-level decision-making roles. Thompson found her response intriguing. Chen was clearly ambitious and forward-thinking, seeking ways to leverage her experience into broader military contributions. Her interest in strategic roles suggested intellectual capabilities that matched her demonstrated tactical skills, making her the kind of well-rounded soldier that the military needed in leadership positions. What specific areas interest you most? Thompson asked, genuinely curious about her career aspirations and thinking about how someone with her background might fit into various command structures. He was beginning to see Chen not just as an exceptional individual soldier, but as someone with significant potential for advancement and increased responsibility. I'm particularly interested in special operations planning and counter-sniper tactics development, Chen replied. My field experience has shown me gaps in current approaches that could be addressed through better training programs and operational procedures. I'd like to help develop more effective methods for protecting our forces from enemy marksmen. Thompson was impressed by her strategic thinking. Chen wasn't just focused on her own career advancement. She was identifying ways to use her experience to solve broader military problems. Her interest in counter-sniper tactics showed sophisticated understanding of evolving battlefield challenges and demonstrated the kind of forward-thinking approach that the military needed from its developing leaders. The general realized that his accidental encounter with Chen had revealed not just an individual success story, but also highlighted the military's need to better identify and utilize exceptional talent. Someone with her capabilities and strategic thinking could contribute at much higher levels than her current assignment suggested, and Thompson began considering how he might help facilitate her career development. Chen, Thompson said, I'd like you to prepare a written assessment of current marksmanship training programs, including your recommendations for improvements based on your operational experience. I'm also interested in your thoughts on counter-sniper tactics development. He paused before adding, This won't be just a routine report. I'm considering recommendations for your advancement to positions where your expertise can have broader impact. For the first time, Chen's professional composure showed a hint of genuine enthusiasm. Thank you, sir. I'd be honored to contribute to program development at a higher level. Her response confirmed Thompson's assessment that she was ready for increased responsibility and eager to make larger contributions to military effectiveness. Thompson realized that their chance meeting was going to result in significant changes for both of them. Chen would likely find herself with new opportunities that better matched her capabilities, while he had discovered a valuable resource for improving his command's training and operational effectiveness. 3 months after his encounter with Staff Sergeant Chen, General Thompson sat in his office reviewing the comprehensive report she had submitted on marksmanship training improvements. Her analysis was thorough, insightful, and presented practical solutions to problems that had plagued military training programs for years. The document demonstrated not only her field expertise, but also her ability to think strategically about complex organizational challenges. Chen's recommendations had already begun to show results. The training modifications she suggested were being implemented across multiple bases, and preliminary assessments indicated significant improvements in soldier readiness and confidence. Her approach to stress inoculation training, based on her combat experience, was particularly effective in preparing soldiers for the psychological demands of precision shooting under pressure. Thompson had been true to his word about facilitating Chen's career advancement. He had submitted recommendations for her promotion and transfer to the Pentagon's Special Operations Development Division, where her expertise would contribute to policy development and training standardization across all military branches. The position would allow her to influence military effectiveness on a much broader scale. The general reflected on how their chance meeting had challenged his own assumptions and preconceptions. Chen's exceptional capabilities had forced him to reconsider his understanding of military talent and the importance of recognizing excellence regardless of its source. He had learned valuable lessons about leadership and the danger of overlooking capable personnel due to unconscious biases. Word of Chen's remarkable shooting demonstration had spread throughout the base and beyond, inspiring other soldiers and challenging traditional thinking about combat roles and capabilities. Several female soldiers had specifically requested assignment to marksmanship programs after learning about her achievements, showing how individual excellence could motivate broader participation and improvement. Thompson had also instituted changes in how exceptional personnel were identified and utilized within his command. He established regular reviews to ensure that soldiers with unique capabilities were properly recognized and assigned to roles that maximized their contributions. Chen's case had shown him the importance of actively seeking out hidden talent, rather than waiting for it to be obvious. The morning's routine inspection walk had become something of a legend among base personnel, with many soldiers hoping for their own chance encounters with the general that might lead to career opportunities. Thompson encouraged this by making himself more accessible and actively engaging with soldiers at all levels, recognizing that leadership meant being aware of the human resources under his command. Chen's influence extended beyond training improvements to broader military culture changes. Her professional approach to discussing combat experience had become a model for how soldiers could share knowledge without sensationalizing their service. Her matter-of-fact descriptions of exceptional achievements under dangerous conditions demonstrated the kind of quiet professionalism that Thompson wanted to see throughout his command. The counter-sniper tactics development program that Chen had proposed was now under active development, with her serving as primary consultant despite her pending transfer. Early indications suggested that her insights would lead to significant improvements in force protection capabilities, potentially saving lives in future deployments. Thompson had shared Chen's story with appropriate discretion at several senior leadership conferences as an example of the importance of recognizing and developing exceptional talent. Her case had become part of discussions about military, human resource management, and the need for leaders to remain open to discovering capability in unexpected places. As he prepared for another routine inspection walk, Thompson found himself approaching it with different expectations. Rather than simply checking on compliance and discipline, he now saw it as an opportunity to discover the remarkable individuals who might be serving under his command without his knowledge. Chen had taught him that extraordinary capability often existed quietly within the ranks, waiting to be recognized and properly utilized. The general stood up from his desk and straightened his uniform, preparing to begin his morning walk. As he headed toward the door, Thompson reflected on how a simple decision to observe a training exercise had led to discoveries that improved his command, advanced a deserving soldier's career, and challenged his own leadership approach. Walking across the same gravel path where he had first noticed the exceptional shooting, Thompson smiled as he remembered his initial assumption about the identity of the marksman. The memory served as a permanent reminder to approach every interaction with openness and curiosity, recognizing that the most significant discoveries often came from the most unexpected encounters. The sound of rifle fire echoed across the valley from the shooting range, just as it had 3 months earlier. But now Thompson heard it differently, wondering what stories of skill and dedication might be unfolding with each shot. He had learned that behind every remarkable performance was an individual with unique experiences and capabilities, waiting for the right opportunity to contribute at their highest level. As he continued his walk, General Thompson carried with him the lessons learned from Staff Sergeant Chen's 3,200-meter shot. It wasn't just the technical achievement that had impressed him, but the quiet professionalism, strategic thinking, and dedication to service excellence that it represented. These qualities, he now understood, existed throughout his command in ways he was only beginning to discover. The routine inspection walk had become something much more significant, a daily opportunity to recognize and celebrate the exceptional individuals who formed the backbone of military excellence, regardless of how they might initially appear to casual observation.